Hello, and welcome this evening to the Uplift Network. I'm your host, Paula. And for those of you who may be new to this channel, my name is Paula and I'm a light worker. I intentionally bring messages of hope, love, and compassion, empathy in this world at this time where we're living in what they call the sorrows, where the news media and some of the prophetic word can be pretty scary or a little unsettling, doesn't always make us feel empowered or good. And so, in a conversation with God one night, I was asked to start a YouTube channel. Never done this before. So, here I am, just a human like you, doing what I was asked to do, which was to remind you that Jesus is still alive in this world. He is with us. He is performing miracles and showing up and showing off every day. And so the goal of this network is to get as many subscribers as we can because I want to share your stories. These are not my stories. I'm not going to keep going and looking for stories. You're going to bring the stories and we're going to share them in this community. And this is a movement that we want to go global to remind the world that there's another side to all of the fear or the worry, and not that some of the things are not real. They are. They very much are a part of this world. Some of the prophetic word is very much things that are coming, right? But everyone that listens to that can't always ingest it and remain positive, and it's really having a mental impact on a lot of people. So a lot of you have written in, some that have seen my videos have written in and asked questions around, how do you stay grounded, especially with the worry. We all have families, we all have children, we all have jobs, and everywhere we turn, there's like financial strife and food strife and gas prices. And so I really want to do some more maybe 30-minute shows on talking about how we can meditate, how we can sort of breathe and release those things to get our focus in a place of positivity. It's not easy. I'm human just like you, right? I have a job, a full-time job, and there are days when, I just want to knock my head on the desk, like, what is wrong with people? Why are people the way they are? Or why am I feeling this way today? What just triggered me that someone did, right? Or someone said. And so it's just that we've been so conditioned in the disappointment or the lack of trust, or we think we should trust something and it starts to go in a good direction and then it's not. I mean, a perfect example is all this war, right? Like, right? It's almost gotten to the point where it's funny. I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but it's gotten to this point where we're making progress. We're going to have a truce. We're going to stop. And then we start again. And it's happened like over and over and over again to the point where, like, I feel like we no longer care. Like, I feel like people don't believe, they don't know what to believe. And so they're really not paying attention, and maybe they're not being as vigilant as they should be in some situations. And that's really scary, but you just have to remember that you are the light. You have the power to see the other side. So remember, there's always two sides to a story. There's always two sides to the coin, right? There are two sides to the world that we're living in. You can focus on the negative, you can focus on the positive. As a collective, if you know anything about manifestation, you know that as a collective, if we bring our collective into a positive space and we stick together and stay together and continue to share that good news, share that positivity, we will get more of it. But when the media can control 75% or more of the population, and they just keep flashing that movie in front of you of doom and gloom and lack, that's what you're going to have. So if that means you have to intentionally click on and off, for example, if you're a person who likes to see the headlines and then you kind of go down the rabbit hole and you start opening every story, maybe don't do that. Maybe if you want to be informed, open it up, open your browser, look at the headlines and close it. Don't read the details, don't read the stories. Now you've been informed, but you don't have to dwell on anything, right? That's just one tool you could use. Another tool would be meditation. Is setting intentions every morning. When you wake up in the morning, thank God it's another day. You're up, you're breathing, you're alive. That's so much to be thankful for. And we kind of don't say it every day, but we should be. Anyways, we'll do more work on this as you share things with me, because then I want to share with the collective those things people share. One thing I will share today. So we're going to do some of the news updates I have over here. But one thing I'll share is one of you did write in the other day on these little acts of kindness and said, "Oh, this is so inspirational because there's a gentleman, I forget his handle. Anyway, he RIP somebody. I don't know. It's kind of like a depressing name, but Cliff or something. It's for some sports thing. Anyway, oh no, it wasn't. It was for some Metallica member that died in a plane crash or something. I can't remember the story, but anyway, that's his handle. And he wrote in to say that he does this thing at work where every Sunday he bakes brownies and he brings them to the job. And he puts things in them every time. So it's not just like a dud batch of brownies. It's one weekend he'll put peanut butter in the brownies. Another weekend he'll mix M&Ms in the brownies. Another weekend he gets very creative. Shared all kinds of marshmallows and chocolate syrup, and I was just like, ugh. Sugar rush, right? And so anyway, so he brings these brownies to work, and when he started doing that, people were like, what's the occasion? And when they realized that he has been just totally consistent doing this now for, he said, over a year, it inspired others who now start bringing in meals to feed each other. So one week someone will bring in, pasta and meatballs and they'll share it with everybody. Another week somebody will buy pizza for everybody. Anyway, so it's kind of been like a chain reaction. And it was just such like a little feel good story where it's like we all have that ability. We all have the power to make a difference, and it doesn't have to cost you anything. Well, you can go to the dollar store and buy a brownie mix, right, for 99 cents, or well, maybe now it's $1.05, since most dollar stores are not dollar stores anymore. But in any event, you understand. It doesn't take a lot. And like I said, I've said it to you before and I'll say it again. Go out in the world, just whatever you're doing today, driving to work, shopping, picking up your kids at school, and smile at a total stranger. I can't tell you when I'm having a bad day, if I go out and I'm just nice to somebody that I don't even know, or I just ask them how they are, I get to a cashier and I'm like, "Hi, how are you today?" They look at me like, "What's wrong with you? Like, what do you mean? How am I doing today?" Because people don't ask them, right? They greet us. Most people don't greet back. So do that, and you're going to get a light feeling in your heart, and that might take your mind off some of this chaos as well. But okay, I'm going to pull some notes over here and we're going to get right to it. So the first story, there's a couple of miracles. Like, remember, God had said, "Tell my people that I'm still here, I'm showing up, I'm showing off. You are not alone. I am with you." And I was like, "Oh geez, how do I find these things?" So I found today, it's called Saint Charbel. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but it's Charbel. There's a saint out there, which I never knew, this saint, okay? But there's been two medical diagnoses that have been corrected through women who were praying to the saint for healing. So in July, the church received two new reports of medical unexplained healings attributed to Saint Charbel. Saint Charbel is a Lebanese monk known globally for miraculous intercessions. Now, I've never heard of this saint. I've heard of Saint Teresa. That's my patron saint. And there's a glorious Saint Teresa prayer that I say every single morning around interceding for things in my life. But this saint is specifically for miraculous intercessions and healings. And so I have another story I'll share with you at some point where, I may just start praying to the saint to see if it makes a difference for me. But in Lebanon, a woman was diagnosed with a spinal meningioma, a tumor that was expected to require surgery. When she returned for a follow-up scan, the doctors were stunned that the tumor was completely gone. No treatment, no intervention, no explanation. Around the same time that story came out, someone in the United States experienced a sudden and complete recovery after praying to Saint Charbel, and her doctors called her turnaround impossible. For the American woman, it was a 46-year-old woman Church investigated and confirmed that she is a practicing Christian who had recently begun praying to Saint Charbel Maklouf, Makhloof. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's a Lebanese monk known for miraculous healings. She had no prior connection to Lebanon or to the Maronite Church, making her case especially notable to these investigators. What happened? Well, the diagnosis was this. The woman was diagnosed with a serious neurological condition that was expected to worsen with symptoms that including persistent nerve pain, mobility issues, numbness in her legs, and difficulty walking. MRI images showed abnormalities, and her doctors believed this would require long-term treatment and possibly surgery. After receiving the diagnosis, she began praying daily to Saint Charbel, asking specifically for healing of her spine and nervous system. She kept a small Saint Charbel icon on her nightstand and prayed the healing prayer every night. Within weeks, her symptoms began to disappear. Her pain stopped, her numbness resolved, mobility returned, and she was able to walk normal again. So her doctors ordered new imaging. The follow up MRI showed complete resolution of the abnormality that was previously seen. Her neurologist documented the case as no medical explanation for the reversal. So the hospital submitted the case to a local diocese after the patient insisted that the healing was not natural but divine, right? A divine intervention. And that's what, I don't know, if you're not Catholic, or I don't know even if others other than the Catholic Church do this, but when certain unexplained healings happen, the diocese of the church will investigate to see, what was that person doing? Who was that person praying to? Was it a patron saint, to validate the miracle? The church investigated, and the case was reviewed by a U.S. Diocese Medical Board, the Maronite clergy, the Saint Charbel Shrine in Lebanon, and they confirmed that the original diagnosis was valid. The healing was sudden with no medical treatment that could explain the changes, and the patient attributed the healing solely to prayer. This led to the case being added to the growing list of 2026 Saint Charbel miracles. So that got me thinking, like, what's that prayer? So I'll put it in the comments later to this video, but just so you know, this is the prayer. O God, who granted Saint Charbel the peace of faith and the power of healing, grant that through his intercession my soul may be healed from all that separates me from you, and my body restored according to your will. Saint Charbel, beloved of God, help me carry my crosses with patience and trust. Intercede for me and obtain the grace I need. Amen. So if maybe you have some sickness, illness, something going on, maybe practice that prayer and see if you get your own miracle, because I really do believe that you will. I really do believe in the power of prayer, and I really do believe in miracles. I see them all around me every day. Okay, so now one of the things that pilgrims have now flooded the Saint Charbel shrines worldwide, and clergy have begun a formal investigation now into both of those cases. So, very interesting story. You could look up where the Saint Charbel shrines worldwide if you want to go and visit one. That's something you could do too. This was an interesting story too. This story was from back in April, actually, and it was in Louisville. And the Metro Police had been looking, you probably saw this on the news, but I wanted to bring it back because it stayed with me. They were looking for a 3-year-old boy who had gone missing. They were searching for him. It was with like a family gathering, and all of a sudden he just disappeared. And hours were going by, and the temperatures were dropping, and everyone was freaking out, and they called it in as a missing child. And the police came, and out of nowhere, this collie dog came that no one recognized and just kept barking at everyone and then taking a few steps back and barking again. And then it kept looking, over its shoulder. And so the officers decided to start following it, like talk to it, follow it, see where it was going to lead them to. And the dog led them to an SUV where the child had trapped himself inside. And the dog sat at the bumper, incessantly barking until they opened the car to find this child. What's weird is that the dog vanished afterwards. It's never been seen again, and nobody ever claimed this dog. No one ever came along and said, "Oh, that was my dog. I was wondering where he was all this time," right? And so even the police officers have called it a blessing from God that day. The child survived. He had no injuries, and the story was shared by churches across Kentucky as a modern day guardian angel encounter. I can tell you, there are lots of people in my life who have talked about guardian angels. I too talk about my guardian angels all the time. I remember, oh gosh, maybe 20 years ago now, my sister was pregnant at the time and she already had three children. And she was driving, that crazy parenting that we do, who's got soccer, who's got school, who's got aftercare. And she was racing from one place to another as she was, dodging all of the events that her children were in. And she came across an intersection, and out the side of her, peripheral vision, she saw a car flying at her, and she knew, like, that's it. She's going to be T-boned. She's going to lose this baby. She's probably going to lose her life, and her children are in this car. And she screamed at her highest lungs, "I am not ready to go right now." Screamed it, and has no clue why or how this accident was avoided. She made it through the intersection. This car that flew by made it through the intersection. No other accidents. And that story always stuck with me when she told me that. It was just such a touching thing where you say, you know what? That was your guardian angel. There was a guardian angel on your shoulder, and there was a reason for that. Thought I'd share that there. So there's some other things going on in the news that I'd love to share with you as well. So those two stories were kind of our little miracles of the day. And the rest of this is just newsworthy stories, current events, if you will, that will just keep you aligned in that positivity channel of, yep, the news media is going to show you all about the negative things out there today and the fear and the doom and the gloom. But I want you to focus over here. Come back to this as many times as you want to. That's why we're here. Share the stories, share the love, share it with me. I'll share it with the world. So there's a radical forgiveness after deep trauma story, and this is a story between Israel and Palestine, and this this is from April as well. Inan, an Israeli man who lost both parents in the October 7th attacks. They were killed in those attacks, an act of violence carried out by Hamas, a group responsible for severe harm and loss of life. But instead of choosing hatred, Inan chose something almost unimaginable. This is so hard in life to do. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the easiest things to say, but the hardest thing to really do. Over 2 years, he worked with Palestinian partners to write a book on reconciliation. And in 2026, he co-founded an NGO where Israelis and Palestinians work side by side on peace initiatives. I mean, forgiveness at this level is just not human strength, it's divine strength, truly. Many faith leaders have called Anand's transformation a miracle from the heart. And this story has inspired interfaith gathering, peace workshops, and global conversations about the healing places of deep pain. We need more of that in this world, right here at home, but this is a global story. I have another story. Christians in Sudan shelter 170,000 displaced people. So the Nuba Mountains is in Sudan. And this started in 2026. It's ongoing. There's a community called the Nuba Christian Community. So Sudan's civil conflict has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. Many fled into the Nuba Mountains, which is home to Christian communities that were historically persecuted by the same group now seeking refuge. Instead of retaliation, though, the Nuba Christians opened their homes, shared their food, offered land for families to rebuild, and welcomed 170,000 displaced people, many from groups that were tied to their former oppressors. That's amazing. That's super hard to do. Their leaders publicly declared forgiveness and hospitality, and humanitarian organizations have called it a miracle of mercy. The region's now become a refuge instead of a battleground, which is we need more of this, a living example of God's command to love your neighbor, even your enemy. Again, God has said, love your neighbor, even your enemy. So hard to do. And that doesn't mean, step out in front of a bullet, right? But where we are today, I don't know how much you all study spirituality, but where we are today, not well as individuals, but collectively as cultures as well, we are a product of past pains and past hurts that haven't been resolved. So as an individual, you have triggers, you have things in your family history that have happened that are not your fault. They're not your baggage, but they are impacting your life. The same thing with religions and communities, global communities, right? There's it's not like we woke up and said, I don't like you, or you don't like me, or we don't like your religion, or you don't like my religion, or my country, blah, blah, blah. It is a collective of all the years through history that's never been addressed and resolved, for which we are now showing, right? We are now like representing, if you will. And until we heal and clear and release, that will always be that way. And so, this impact of miracles of mercy, we just need to pray more for that and practice spirituality. There's some great programs out there. There's some great groups out there that practice spirituality and teach you all those things. And I'm happy to share that with you at some point as well. But again, God's command was love your neighbor as yourself, even your enemy, right? Anyways, these stories I'm telling you tonight are just to remind us of something powerful. God is not distant. He's not silent. He's not done here. He is here in the healings that no doctor can explain, in the protection that arrives in the form of a mysterious collie, in the forgiveness that defies human logic, and in the communities that choose mercy over revenge. So, to remind you, miracles still happening and wonders still unfold, and God is still with us. So, from the Uplift Network, I'm Paula. Stay hopeful, stay open, and stay ready because God is still moving. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't yet subscribed, please give us a thumbs up if you got something out of this content. Subscribe, like, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandmother, tell your children. This is for everyone. Share your stories, comment below. Tell me what's going on in your life. Tell me where you're from. Tell me the miracles you see every day. Tell me what's on your mind. And we can bring those things to the table and help each other. We're one community rising up together. And I want the most powerful movement to, commit to you to keep this uplifted community the way God has asked me to do. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful evening and we'll talk again soon.